Randall led the T-Wolves with 28 points. Game 2's Thursday night in Oklahoma City. Tonight, Eastern Conference Final, Game 1, the Knicks host the Pacers at Madison Square Garden. NHL playoffs Tuesday, the Panthers beat the Hurricanes 5-2 in Raleigh to take a 1-0 series lead in the Eastern Conference Final. Is Carolina's 13th straight loss in a conference final, going back to being swept in 2009, 2019, and 2023, that time by the Panthers. Florida's the defending Stanley Cup champs. Game 2 in Raleigh Thursday night. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Memorial Day doorbuster deals are here at Lowe's. Right now, rewards members save $80 on the Master Forge 4-burner gas grill, now just $149. Plus, rewards members save $900 on the Lowe's exclusive Hisense French door refrigerator, now only $999. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/26. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.
Something amazing is happening here. Scientists are using AI to study how whales talk to each other. CDW experts can give researchers the power to process complex data with HP workstations, advanced by AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro processors. With easier handling of AI workloads, your organization can bring powerful insights to the surface. Make amazing happen. HP, AMD, and CDW. Learn more at cdw.com/HPAMD.
If you want to be an alpha,
you've got to get the winning edge.
It's kind of a necessary ingredient if you want to lead the pack. So mark your territory
with the winning edge.
You're in the big leagues. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
What a Wednesday we have in store, live right here on Football Full Circle. That is FFC, all a part of the Sports Grid Radio Network and Sirius XM Channel 159. He is Scott Wetzel. I am Ben Stevens. And Scott, this week the theme around the National Football League owner meetings in Minneapolis to vote on some rule proposals, most notably the tush push, and perhaps a playoff change in the format and seeding. All of those proposed things have officially been voted on, and within the last 20 minutes, a decision on the tush push. Let's not bury the lead with the breaking news. The tush push survives and lives on. Of course, you need a supermajority to get a proposed rule change passed. That's 24 of 32 NFL owners voting the same way. The tush push did not get that. The banned play and its banned proposal did not receive 24 yeses, Scott, but simply 22. So the tush push survives in the National Football League for at least one more year.
Yeah, two votes shy. It's amazing, Ben. Reading the stories on this, we talked before we came on here. Jason Kelsey, almost like testifying, like this is a big lawsuit case, or big, just in the courts and then trying to have a jury and decide. They really should have a jury, and I guess the owners are the jury. But I would have been okay with either way. I mean, I don't think it should be allowed. I just don't think aiding and abiding a runner more so. I've mentioned it before. I'm more upset with the running back or the wide receiver being pushed down the field by the offensive lineman than I am the quarterback on a 1-yard quarterback sneak. Just stop it on a quarterback sneak. I don't care about that. It's the other stuff that really I wanted to ban, but I guess you couldn't ban either. They came close, but I don't think ultimately they'll ever get this passed. I just don't. I do expect some defenses to try to do more what Washington did last year, if you remember that in the postseason, where they tried to get the offense to flinch a little bit. I think now it's up to the defense, Ben, right? The defensive coordinators to come up with something. All right, we can't stop it seemingly, just playing it straight. Right. So let's find now a loophole that we can prevent this from being successful.
And, of course, Scott, that was one of the conversations for the ban proposal in the first place. Was it being done because of player health and safety, which is what we often see when a rule or a play is changed in the NFL? Was it being done to take a shot at the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, utilizing their competitive advantage? And I think one of the issues, Scott, that I had with the idea of this banned proposal to change and ban the tush push was it wasn't like the Eagles were the only team that is allowed to use this play. They're just the most successful at it. by a good bit. There is no grandfathered in rule that only in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania may an NFL team push its quarterback on a quarterback sneak. There is no loophole that Philadelphia was exploiting. It was open to all. It was just the Eagles and how they constructed their offensive line with a QB who can squat 600 pounds had excelled in doing so. The challenge now back on the defense. We'll discuss the aftermath and what it means for 2025 in just a moment. But to highlight what Scott was discussing, this was, of course, going to be a hot-button topic this week, Scott, at these owner meetings in Minneapolis. At the first spring meetings back in late March, early April at the Breakers in Palm Beach, of course, we learned it was very divisive in terms of the negotiations and the voting and the conversations around the tush-push and the Packers' proposal to ban this play. 16 yeses, 16 noes directly down the middle, which led to the conversation being tabled until these owner meetings this week in May in Minnesota. It even had some more life this week, Scott, where you had Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie bringing in one of the faces of his franchise in recent memory, and the now retired center in Jason Kelce, who spoke in the open session about an hour ago, campaigning for the tush push to live and survive. To me, Scott, I laugh at the theater and the drama of this all, but really making what is not all that serious and significant seem as such. Jeffrey Lurie telling his fellow owners it's the safest play in football. Jason Kelce campaigning for the sport and what it means to have this play in there. I'm not sure it was Lurie or Kelce on this Wednesday morning, Scott, in Minneapolis, but they got just enough teams to agree with Philadelphia and not enough to agree with Green Bay to pass the ban on the tush push. Again, 22 yeses, 2 votes shy of the 24 necessary for that 75% clip, the supermajority, to change a rule in the National Football League.
Yeah, you wonder, Ben, if you took out the 100 or so plays that Philadelphia ran with the tush push. I think I actually read like 168. Right. How many would they have gotten if they just handed the ball off, or if they did a quarterback sneak but didn't get helped out by the 2 running backs or 2 offensive linemen, which they often put in the backfield? How many? I think a happy compromise to this is really just, all right, if we can't ban it, then at least do this, NFL. At least, now have the officials to emphasize, how we like to emphasize different rules.
Yeah. Forward
progress stopped, right? We can't have a quarterback standing there for 2 seconds, literally, which sounds like nothing, but in football terms, that's an eternity, and still be eligible to go forward. Somewhere along the line, we got to say, okay, officials, do the forward progress is stopped and blow the play dead. This way, we don't have the archaic, craziness that we do see sometimes where, again, the quarterback's standing there for 2 seconds, and then eventually they do push him forward. Have the officials really do that, the forward progress stop, blow the whistle dead, and maybe that's a happy compromise for everybody.
You would think so, Scott. It seems rather fair, right? The competition, the advantage that Philadelphia has, open to all. But from the entertainment value of seeing the defense or somebody like Frankie Louvu in that NFC Championship game just dive across the line of scrimmage, trying to time up the snap 3 times in a row, it's not the prettiest product, of course, for the National Football League. Within the rules, within the legislation, for sure. But I do think Scott presents a good point. And Scott, that was part of the conversation around this, that if it is banned, despite the Eagles campaigning to have the play live, would it actually change anything? Would the reigning Super Bowl champions and the Super Bowl favorites entering next year see their plus 650 price to win a second consecutive Lombardi trophy? See that number get longer? Would their win total of 10.5 drop to 9.5? No, right? It wasn't going to drastically shift the outlook for the Eagles or the landscape of the NFL. But I think in the way the Packers tried to word the legislation, word their proposal, it really does delve with the idea of pushing or shoving a player or pulling said ball carrier across the line of scrimmage or the line to gain. It would have, as the legislation and proposal stated, resulted in a penalty and a loss of 10 yards. That was really the ban of the play. It's not like if Jalen Hurts was pushed by Saquon Barkley, they would have been suspended for 6 games. It just would have resulted in a penalty and a flag on the field. That will not be there. The touch. Yeah, go ahead.
And here's what they would have done. Like, you always got to say, all right, if we ban this, and I don't doubt there were 3, 4, 5 owners that said, okay, I'll consider this. So what's going to happen now if we ban this? And I'll tell you what would have happened, Ben. Instead of having the quarterback be pushed by the 2 offensive linemen that were in the backfield, they would have the quarterback in a shotgun. They would put the 2 offensive linemen, pick a side left or right. Those offensive linemen would be pushing the real offensive lineman, and then the quarterback would just be following them. So they wouldn't necessarily be pushing the quarterback anymore, but they would still be pushing the offensive lineman. So you'd have to put in a rule that you couldn't push any offensive player. I mean, it would get comical. There's always a way around it. But I guarantee you that's exactly what would happen. They wouldn't stop doing it. All right, Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia Eagles, you get in the shotgun. We're going to put 2 on the left, maybe even 2 on the right. Who knows? And you just follow those guys, and those guys, push the offensive lineman, and there's your path. Remember, you're not gaining 5 yards. Yeah. You're only trying to gain a yard in this situation.
Exactly, Scott. There would have been some different legislation in the way that the wording went through where the Packers had that kind of verbiage and what they were discussing. You could only individually block the defender assigned to you, but we see double teams all the time. It would have been very difficult to legislate. We'll talk more about the tush-push surviving in the NFL next.
4 out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on Sports Grid. And we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin.
He just gives that 5.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
With the Sports Grid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Sky Rizzi. U.S. health officials are investigating a new outbreak of salmonella illnesses tied to a Florida grower whose tainted cucumbers were linked to more than 550 illnesses last year. Cucumbers grown by Florida-based Bednar growers and distributed by Fresh Start Produce Sales have been linked to illnesses in at least 26 people in 15 states, according to the FDA. Passengers on Southwest Airlines flights will soon be required to keep their portable chargers in plain sight while using them. This is due to concerns about the growing number of lithium-ion battery fires. Southwest announced the new policy will go into effect May 28th. A New Orleans jail maintenance worker admitted he turned off water to a toilet covering a hole in a cell wall, allowing 10 men to squeeze through the gap in one of the largest jailbreaks in recent U.S. history. 33-year-old Sterling Williams faces charges. 5 of the 10 men are still at large. I'm Trey Westerberg with the Sports Grid News Flash.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your boat, boat wins.
What are you going to do? Take the boat out for a spin or go mail something? Boat wins! Are we cleaning the patio or taking the boat out fishing? Boat wins! Are we skipping that eye exam to go sailing? Boat wins!
Rescheduling eye exams can be a nightmare.
All right, fine. Eye exam, then boat.
Yeah!
With Progressive, you can bundle your boat with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings on your boat. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states and situations.
Something amazing is happening in networking. Organizations are scaling with less stress. That's because CDW is designing and implementing intelligent HPE Aruba networking solutions that simplify and secure operations. With automation at the center of your data center, growing pains can be a thing of the past. HPE Aruba Networking and CDW. Make amazing happen. Learn more at cdw.com/Aruba.
There's something you should know and always remember.
Sports Grid does not increase luck.
We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck,
Go find a horseshoe.
this is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. The storyline today in the NFL is you can still push your teammate's butt to pick up a yard or 2 on the field. The tush-push lives. The proposed ban from the Green Bay Packers did not receive the necessary votes today at the owners' meeting in Minneapolis. 22 yeses, 10 noes, falling 2 votes shy of the necessary 24, that supermajority, to ban the tush-push. Now, it should be shared. Green Bay was the team, Scott, to propose this change to the rule, but there were 21 other NFL franchises that certainly agreed. There were also some other teams, as we will highlight, that agreed with the Eagles to let live the tush-push and the play of play in that game. And Scott, when you look at the final tally, as some have now pointed out, 22-10, basically the Packers versus the Eagles kind of spearheading their efforts to either kill or have the tush push live, is also the final score of the opening round of the playoffs this year, en route to Philadelphia winning a Super Bowl 22-10. The Eagles beat the Packers back at Lincoln Financial Field in early January in the opening round of the postseason. 22-10 will be a big number for the Packers and the Eagles, I guess, to remember at least for the next year.
Yeah, that is kind of funny, right? How things work out that way. I'd like to go back and see how many games like Green Bay, obviously they played Philadelphia twice, once in the regular season and once in the postseason. Like, how many times did that happen to Green Bay that they, ended up giving up a first down, that they were so upset about it that they wanted to propose this rule? Or maybe they just said, we don't like it, so I'm going to propose it. But, was there something behind the scenes that really prompted them just to say, okay, this is ridiculous, we can't have this? It would be so impossible. Listen, there were rules, Ben, where you couldn't aid a runner. I mean, they did have those before. Right. Then, several years ago, they stopped. And rules like this have been changed. Like, there used to be a rule where you could have a center sneak. I'll date myself. The center was able to, at one point, not snap the ball, but he couldn't just go forward. He would have to pretend to snap it. The quarterback would have to touch the ball, but then the center would grab it back and go forward. And somewhere along the line over the last 20, 30 years, whatever it was, they banned that. So they have banned, rules like this.
For sure.
But I just wonder if something happened to Green Bay that they felt they lost a game for whatever reason, that they were so hell-bent on trying to get this rule passed.
Yeah, and you would think, Scott, with what the tush push has meant to Philadelphia, of course it has helped them be wildly successful in short yardage plays, to pick up first downs, to keep a series alive, to move the sticks, and of course, to convert in points, as we saw on the very first score of Super Bowl 59, Jalen Hurts scoring that touchdown for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, with that being said, Scott, is that the reason the Eagles won a Super Bowl? Is that the reason they hammered the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22? Is it the reason they beat Green Bay by multiple scores as well? More than likely not. Was it going to have an impact if the tush push was banned? More than likely not. There are many different ways to pick up a few inches, a few feet, heck, even a few yards in the NFL. And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people and some other teams outside of Philadelphia felt like, why are we doing everything to change this rule just because of a short yardage play? In fact, Scott, Diana Rossini of The Athletic highlighted a few teams of the 10 that voted with Philadelphia to make sure the tush push does live on. The Ravens, the Patriots, the Lions, and the Jets all voted no on that proposal to ban the tush push. Was it some divisional rivalry between Detroit and Green Bay? We shall see. Dan Campbell was asked about this at the initial spring meetings back in late March, early April there in Florida. Basically said, if you've got something that you have, if you have a play that gives you the advantage, it's on us to stop it. So for me, what's the point of banning it? Let it live. I think that might have been a sentiment, Scott, that many who agreed with Philadelphia's perspective kind of went with to vote no on the proposal.
Yeah, I don't like that thinking, though, but I could come up with a dozen plays that they banned because it's not fair, whether it's offensive pass interference, whether it's the center sneak that I talked about. There's a lot of rules, that you just could easily just say, well, just stop it. That's all. Well, why are we going to have a rule that bans it? There's a certain point where you say, well, okay, you can't stop it, or it's not fair, or it's not good for football. I would say this, if we had a team, I've had people say this to me, listen, we got 4 downs to get a first down, right? So that's 4 downs to get 10 yards. Why don't we just do the push-tush 4 times? And chances are pretty good you're going to get your 10 yards. We haven't seen a team, do that. Even I've never seen a team do it even twice in one set of downs, unless it was a failed attempt. So yeah. I don't think it's really over the top. I just think, let's think who does it the most? Philadelphia and Buffalo. Those 2 teams by far did it the most last year, and I'm sure in previous years. And yet, and when are you watching Philadelphia and Buffalo? Basically every single week, because those are 2 of the best, 10 teams, 5 teams in the NFL. So we're seeing them over and over and over again. So it seems like it's happening a lot more than what it really is. A lot of teams don't utilize this, but those 2 teams do, right. And we watch them every single week.
Yeah, it's a good point, Scott, right? And the Eagles do it more than anybody. or at least more successfully than anybody around the NFL. By the way, the Packers and the Eagles will play in Lambeau on Monday Night Football to end out week number 10 of this NFL season in early November. There have already been some jokes on social media that the Eagles should run the tush-push against the Packers in that game in Green Bay 15 times. There's been some jokes that the Eagles should line up in the tush-push on their first play from the line of scrimmage in the season debut against the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday, September 4th. And again, I really think, Scott, in terms of the actual impact that we would have seen from the preseason odds perspective, minimal. One area where I do think we might have seen a change in the odds, maybe updated anytime touchdown numbers on Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. It always seemed like Jalen Hurts was taken away from Barkley's short yardage touchdown potentials. Of course, Saquon still had a pretty good year last year in his first season in Philly.
Yeah, now that clearly would be the one, right? If you had a touchdown, probably if they banned this, Hurts' number would go from 10 to maybe 3 or 4, at best. So interesting.
The tush push lives. That's the story today from Minneapolis, but plenty more was voted on this week by the owners in those owner meetings. We'll break it down, including a change to the playoff format in the NFL. That's next here on FFC.
There's smart
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. The Sports Grid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1981, the Stanley Cup Finals. The New York Islanders win back-to-back titles, beating the Minnesota North Stars 5-1 for a 4-1 series win. For Sports Grid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Flying construction robots, coming soon to a building site near you. Swiss researchers have found that precision flying construction robot drones, similar technology to that used to create those beautiful synchronized aerial displays, can be used to precisely position large objects, assisting construction workers at great heights. Synchronized drone swarms autonomously constructing entire buildings in remote locations, hazardous conditions, even cutting down on construction accidents. Ouch. Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Carver and Lisi.
Did he get it, Joe? Did Hoskins get it? Did he get it? Did he get it? Oh, this is another one.
They're not using the Goldilocks balls. They're not using the Goldilocks balls. You could tell the balls aren't carrying. Manfred, just own up to it. Let us all know you're using the styrofoam middles. Every single game, the balls don't carry.
It's Carver and Lisi with Mike Carver and Joe Lisi. Weekdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the Sports Grid Radio Network. There comes a point when the chips are down.
To coin a phrase.
When the only thing you can do is stop and wait. Do you want to face that moment prepared?
Or rely on luck?
Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. Scott, the owner meetings this week in Minneapolis featured more than just voting on the tush push. Of course, as we have shared the big news in the last hour around the NFL, the tush push will live and survive for at least another season. Another big one, Scott, that we thought would be voted on, a restructuring to the playoff format instead of how it currently works in the expanded postseason. Now, with 7 teams qualifying for the playoffs in each conference, your 4 divisional champs seeded 1 through 4, and they get a guaranteed home game to start off the postseason. And your wild card teams 5 through 7, it would be those 7 teams reaching the playoffs and then seeded 1 through 7 based on regular season record. Well, the Lions had proposed that potential change to playoff seeding, did not garner the support necessary, and thus it was tabled. So the playoff format, the playoff structure that we have known as of late, it remains divisional championships, and those divisional winners still get the benefit of the doubt to host at least one game come the postseason.
Yeah, this was, Ben, something I think is bigger than what, people just automatically assume, right? Okay, so let's, have a record be, 8-8 or 8-9 and be seated below a division winner. But think about, I think the owners took a bigger picture of this and just said, well, wait a minute. Who also has a similar situation like this? The NBA. I guarantee you, if you ask 10 NBA good fans, do you know there's divisions in the NBA? I think they would all say, what? No, there's not. It goes by conference, right? We did 1 through 13 or 1 through 12, whatever, that make the playoffs, and that's how it is, right? No, there's actually division. Does anybody care about the division? No. Do you want to win your division? No, you don't get anything out of it because it's based on your record in the NBA. So I think the NFL said, no, we don't want that. I know it makes sense to give, a team that's a wild card team, if you will, the home game, but we don't want that, the division just being the NBA division. So they said no. I would have been okay with it. I just don't think 6 games, which is what you have. You only have 4 teams in the division. You're only playing 6 games out of a 17-game schedule, and that's going to allow you to I obviously have other games, but, the focus is those 6. You win your division games, you're going to win your division, right? I just don't think that's enough to really award a home game. So I would have been okay with it. I understand why they didn't do it, but I would have been on the other side. I would have said, why should the Green Bay Packers, we'll say, well, why should they at 12-5 get a road game when 9-8 Tampa Bay is winning the NFC South? Doesn't make any sense. Right? Because of 6 games? Because of 6 lousy games that you're better than your other teams in that division? I don't know.
So I take the differing approach, Scott. I am glad the NFL playoff format is not being changed, because you mentioned 6 games, but more than a third of your schedule is against your division. The NFL schedule makers weight your schedule to focus on your division, to have those traditional rivalries that we know, and the pride of winning said divisional champion against the opponents that you see more frequently than anybody else year after year after year. And thus, if your schedule is weighted more to your division, then winning said division should also carry some weight. So for me, I am glad that the playoff format is remaining the same. And it was interesting that the Lions were the ones to propose this, as it was almost like the Lions helping out their divisional foes last year, in both the Packers and the Vikings, that at least Minnesota had a better record than that of LA. But the Vikings got hammered by the Rams in a game that wasn't even played in Los Angeles, that was played in Glendale because of those tragic wildfires in Los Angeles in the early new year in 2025. I do believe there should be a reward to winning your division if your schedule, more than a third of it, is weighted to playing those divisional opponents frequently. And I think home field advantage to start off the postseason, as well as earning the bid to the playoffs, is worth it in my mind.
Well, I agree with that, but I think that's where I stop it. I said, okay, if you're 9-8 and you win the division, and there's a team that's, we'll say 10-7, that would have been in the playoffs, but now won't, that's okay. You know what? That's your bonus is for winning your division. You'll get the benefit of the doubt over the 10-7 team, but not enough to go to, okay, you also get a home game. That's where I draw the line. And then I don't quite understand this. You said it there a little bit, but here's Mike Tomlin. I'm a division purist, and he's against the change. I'm a division purist, to be quite honest with you. I love the rivalries of division play. How does this change division rivalries? Why would that change?
I think the idea being, Scott, that yes, you're correct in terms of you still get the playoff berth for winning your division, but it doesn't carry as much weight anymore. And so that's why Mike Tomlin, the division purist, is still highlighting the purity of winning the AFC North. We'll continue the conversation up next here on Football Full Circle.
The winning edge. You've got it. But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us. But we're working on that. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. Major League Baseball Tuesday, the Giants beat the Royals 3-2. The Yankees 5-2 winners over the Rangers. Texas manager Bruce Bochy got tossed for arguing a strike call on Aaron Judge. The Red Sox shut out the Mets 2-0. Boston starter Walker Buehler and manager Alex Cora ejected in the third inning for arguing balls and strikes. Buehler was activated earlier in the day from the 15-day injured list. The Cubs pounded the Marlins 14-1. The Pirates shut out the Reds 1-0. Bailey Falter struck out 5 and allowed 4 hits over 7 innings for the win. The Rays got by the Astros 3-2. Chris Bassett and the Blue Jays shut out San Diego 3-0. 6 strikeouts for Bassett over 6 innings. The Brewers beat the Orioles 5-2. The Tigers over the Cardinals 5-4. The White Sox shut out the Mariners 1-0. In 10 innings, the Dodgers beat the Diamondbacks 4-3. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Summer is calling, and guess what? Macy's has the answers for every adventure, with new swim trends and sandals to take you from the beach to the beach bar. Plus, linen suits from Tommy Hilfiger and Michael Kors, and dresses from CC to take you from brunch to the dinner party. Even better, get it all for 25 to 60% off at our Memorial Day sale. So wherever this season takes you, make Macy's your first destination. But hurry, the sale starts Wednesday. Savings off sale and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. It's me, Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. I see those dry elbows, baby. But don't worry, get moisturized right in the shower. So hydrated you can skip the lotion after. Don't wanna see it dry no more. Skin so moisturized with body wash. Look at you now, no more dry skin. Your skin gets the moisture it craves with Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
You're listening to Sports Grid,
Spreading the winning edge far and wide.
terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app.
Face it.
The winning edge is everywhere.
Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. Many potential proposals to change either rules or structuring in the NFL voted on this week at the ownership meetings in Minneapolis. Of course, the tush push survives. The Green Bay Packers proposal got 22 yeses, but not the necessary 24 needed to change the actual rule and ban the tush push. And Scott, we didn't even get a full vote on any of the playoff seating restructuring that would have maybe moved things around in terms of overall record being what is used to seed the postseason 1 through 7 after the 4 divisional champs and the 3 wild card teams did qualify for that playoff berth. You have shared that you would have been okay with the proposal being a thing. I am glad that it was not. Scott, there was a comment from NFL insiders that were there today in the Twin Cities that it did not have the support, the Lions' proposal, to be voted on at this time. But maybe if the NFL, and we expect it to be the case, expands to an 18-game regular season, and we see even greater disparities in divisions, and with those overall records, could be brought up once again.
Yeah, 2 things. One, I wonder if the Lions withdrawing had any role in them saying no to Green Bay, right? 2 teams, same division. Green Bay offers up a proposal about banning the push-tush. Lions maybe say, okay, we'll buy into your proposal, but do me a favor, you got to buy into ours. Packers say, nah, we don't like that proposal for whatever reason. And then the Lions say, all right, well, screw you. Then you know what? We're not going to, vote on your way with the tush-push. So you just wonder how these things kind of work themselves out. Same thing here, as I brought up before, Ben. I don't get, if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, you want to beat the Cleveland Browns. Or if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you want to beat the Cleveland Browns, right? Those are your rivalries. That's never going to change, whether it's an automatic or not automatic, home game. And why would having an 18-game schedule make it okay versus a 17-game schedule to not make it okay for the home game? I heard people, and Tomlin being one of them, and others suggesting, okay, they're going to bring it up again with an 18-game schedule. I don't quite understand why an extra home game or an extra regular season game would dictate a playoff game. What's the difference if it's 17, 16, 15, 12, whatever? How many games, to me, has no bearing on the home field situation in the end.
Yeah, unless there's further imbalance in the records that they can show with an 18-game schedule. I'm not
maybe that's it.
entirely sure. Maybe that would be it, just because you have the potential to have a 12-6 wild card team and an 8-10 or 9-9 divisional champ. I'm not entirely sure. Again, I do hear your point, Scott. Yeah.
You know what's going to happen, though, right? We're doing this basically because of two divisions, right? The AFC South maybe and the NFC South, right? That's really it, right? So let's just say one of those two divisions has a monster team. Maybe the Houston Texans can turn into a super team. Maybe Tampa Bay can turn into a super team, and they get to go 13-4. And people are going to be yelling and screaming, well, that's not fair. They play in the NFC South. That division sucks. Why should they, be able to get a home game? So there's like different ways. If it goes too good, they're doing it now because the teams are lousy and they don't want to give a lousy team. But if a team happens to be great and they're playing in a lousy division, then people are going to say, well, that's not fair because they're playing in a lousy division. They got 5 easy games or 6 easy games versus, the teams in the AFC North that have 6 hard games, we'll say.
Yeah, and it is a good point, Scott. It does really kind of focus on the idea of a divisional champion potentially having a losing record, a divisional champion having fewer than double-digit wins. Since the NFL expanded to 7 teams in the postseason, I believe that was in the 2021 campaign, or maybe the 2020 campaign was the first time. Yeah, 2020 was the first time the NFL had 7 teams qualify for the postseason, the 4 divisional champs, and the additional wild card team to make it 3 wild card spots. Only twice in the last now 5 NFL seasons have we seen a divisional champion win said division, get the benefit of hosting a home playoff game with a losing record. That was the Washington Commanders back in 2020. They took on Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in a wild game, but the Bucs did win. And then 2 years later, it was Tom and his Bucs that had an 8-9 record after winning the NFC South. So those are the 2 times we have seen that. It might not be as frequent as we believe, at least as of this moment, Scott. The playoff seeding and the format remains the same around the NFL. Also voted on today in the ownership meetings, an update to the onside kick rule, trying to help the team that is trailing have more success potentially in converting onside kicks. Of course, with the updated dynamic kickoff, there was a change in how onside kicks must be declared. You had to be trailing, and it could only happen in the 4th and final quarter. The update to the onside kick rule now, Scott, is it can happen at any time a team can declare they are going to attempt an onside kick at any time they are trailing in a football game, and it moves the kickoff 1 yard closer to the receiving team, the opposition. I guess, in essence, trying to get them there earlier to have an opportunity to gather the loose football, or maybe knock somebody down physically so the ball does stay loose and you can fall on it that way. So a small change to the onside kick rule. We'll see, I guess, if it does lead to more successful onside kick attempts in 2025.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I mean, I don't think it'll increase it any. The only time I remember the Detroit Lions in that game late in the season, they tried an onside kick with like 6-7 minutes left, in which they were trailed by 2 or 3 touchdowns. That's the only one I kind of remember. Even anyone else outside of the final minute or 2 doing an onside kick. I don't think this will change. I don't know why they always limited it last year to only the 4th quarter. If the team wants to do it, let them do it. Whatever they want to do. What's the difference, right? So I'm not sure. I don't think this thing goes far enough into if the goal is to increase the onside kicks, I don't think they went far enough. I think you're going to have to do something else. I don't know what it could be. But I think you got to do a little bit more than this. Coaches just don't do onside kick. They just don't think it's successful. They can't get it through their brain that you could fail at an onside kick and still stop them 3 and out.
Yeah.
If I had $1 for every time a head coach said, well, we thought our chances were better if we stopped them 3 and out. You can stop them 3 and out, coach, if you don't get the onside kick. The game's not over.
Yeah.
But every coach in the world says that. Same thing. So I don't think this goes far enough.
Yeah, Scott, last year in the first year of the dynamic kickoff rule, 6% success rate for onside kick attempts a season ago. Does this make it 16%? No. Does it make it even 7%? I'm not entirely sure. Of course, we have changed how it looks, where you can't have an imbalanced line on the side of the field that you are going to attempt the onside kick, done in recognition of player health and safety, a part of the changes to the kickoff rules. I'm not so sure it matters all that much, but another change that was voted on this week in the ownership meeting. Scott, any final words on either the playoff seeding format or the onside kick, or heck, even the tush push, before we talk about what was discussed yesterday in the unanimous vote at the owners' meetings to allow NFL players to play in the Olympics?
Yeah, which is really goofy, right? No, listen, like I said, I would have been okay with either one, with the banning or non-banning. My main focus is I wish they would allow the tush push in the backfield, but not the wide receiver, not the running back who's being held up, and here come these three fat offensive linemen, and they just push the guy another 5 yards down the field, and you hear the announcer talking about, oh, what great leg strength, and he couldn't fall down if he tried. He literally couldn't fall down if he tried. I wish they would have banned that. That was my main thing with the push tush. More so not really the quarterback.
I do wonder, Scott, right, in the wording of the proposal from Green Bay, if that would have been deemed a penalty. Because the idea of pushing the ball carrier, I don't think there was any, and I've looked at the updated proposal, I don't believe there was any wording in the proposal that necessarily said strictly at the line of scrimmage or anything of the sort. That would have been interesting to see, at least for right now. You can get by with a little help from your friends who push the ball carrier in trying to continue forward momentum and move the sticks and gain some yardage down the field. What I had just mentioned right before we had that discussion, a big one yesterday. Unanimously, NFL owners vote to allow NFL players to participate in flag football at the 2028 Summer Olympics. What does it mean? We'll discuss up next.
We're not saying every Sports Grid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie. Just saying. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
With the Sports Grid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Sky Rizzi. A New Orleans jail maintenance worker admitted he turned off water to a toilet covering a hole in a cell wall, allowing 10 men to squeeze through the gap in one of the largest jailbreaks in recent U.S. history. 33-year-old Sterling Williams faces charges. 5 of the 10 men are still at large. U.S. health officials are investigating a new outbreak of salmonella illnesses tied to a Florida grower whose tainted cucumbers were linked to more than 550 illnesses last year. Cucumbers grown by Florida-based Bednar growers and distributed by Fresh Start Produce Sales have been linked to illnesses in at least 26 people in 15 states, according to the FDA. Passengers on Southwest Airlines flights will soon be required to keep their portable chargers in plain sight while using them. This is due to concerns about the growing number of lithium-ion battery fires. Southwest announced the new policy will go into effect May 28th.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the Sports Grid News Flash.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines. Walk right through the door. It's all here to explore. With guides in the know and prices so low, it just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
Drink responsibly, B21.
With Progressive Snapshot, you could save on auto insurance rates by driving safely, which is nice because you can just keep doing you. So keep on using that broken phone charger because it occasionally works. Keep quoting something you heard on a podcast as your own. Keep ignoring your sister's texts while you drive and after. And when baggage claim says, have a great trip, keep on saying, you too. And keep driving safely. And you could save with Snapshot from Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Snapshot not available in California from all agents. Surcharge possible for unsafe driving.
Remember when you were thankful you could just get AM and FM?
Things have progressed.
Now even an app on your phone can give you a 21st century thrill with that little drop of heaven called
the deposit notification.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. The first vote from the NFL owners meeting this week in Minneapolis was whether or not NFL players would be permitted to participate in the 2028 Summer Olympics in flag football, the new sport in the Olympiad coming our way in 2028 in Los Angeles. And Scott, it wasn't overly contentious, at least in that ownership meeting. All 32 NFL owners unanimously approve NFL player participation in the 2028 Summer Games to participate in flag football. let's start with that idea first and foremost, Scott. We can break down the reality of the situation after. Do you agree with the decision by the owners to allow NFL players to participate in flag football in the Olympics?
I'll go one step earlier and just talk about what is football doing in the Olympics, flag football. You know it's obviously a United States thing, right? If this Olympics was being held in Germany or Spain or wherever, we would not be having flag football, right? So they do that. They accommodate, the host country every once in a while by putting in some goofy events that normally wouldn't be there. But do we really need to prove to the world that we have the best football players? There isn't another country out there that has football. You realize up in Canada, our neighbors, I was talking to Joe Madden, who I host on weekends with, the college football. There is no college football. There's no high school football. There's nothing. Like, nobody cares. She said, like, Little League baseball games get more people that go to the colleges that actually play, or high schools that actually play football. So why is it there? I would say no. If I have the legal, and apparently the owners do, I guess just because of summer practices, they would have to miss all the summer practices. But if I had the ability as an owner to say no, man, I'd be voting against it. No way. We could put the Topeka High's football team in the Olympics, and they're going to get a gold medal, for goodness sake. These scores are going to be ridiculous. It's not going to be entertaining. We thought we had an advantage when we put the pros in there in basketball. This is going to be even more comical. I'd be more concerned about the backlash we're going to get and my players are going to get, because they're going to win games 100-0. I mean... So I would say no. Don't go. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
And that's part of the sentiment, I think, as well, Scott, is the idea that the NFL now gets to craft its dream team in flag football. We'll talk about how flag football differs from the sport we are used to watching in just a moment as well. I was surprised, I guess, ever so slightly, Scott. It was unanimous, and it was this gung-ho idea that NFL players playing in the Summer Olympics in flag football is for the betterment of the sport, right? It's the international appeal the NFL has tried to do with their international games, 7 games this year, playing in new places like Madrid. We've got a game in Dublin as well. There is no doubt that flag football is far more accessible than that of tackle football. International and global countries do play flag football to the extent that Americans love football, a uniquely American game. Not quite in that essence either. And of course, flag football differs in both its construction and the overall physicality from what we are used to seeing in 11-on-11 American tackle football. There is also, Scott, the contractual side of all of this. The Summer Games in LA in 2028 are July 14th through the 30th. That lines up with the very start of training camp for all 32 NFL teams around the league. And we understand how important it is to show up to camp on time, in shape, and ready to go. We look forward to training camp arrival dates basically next month around this time as we wait for football to come back into our lives in just about a month. And there are the contractual obligations that come with showing up to training camp, with making sure that you are ready to go and your body is in shape. So from that perspective, Scott, I was surprised that every NFL franchise was like, hey, go ahead and play, take time away from training camp. And although it's flag football, and maybe you're not getting headhunted running a route across the middle, you're still playing an athletic game. There's still soft tissue injuries that could be a part of what we see in the Olympics as well.
Oh, absolutely. I used to ref, don't ask how and why, but I actually used to ref flag football here on Long Island. So I know a little bit about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for the first guy to pull a hamstring or bust a finger because he's reaching to grab that dopey flag. That's impossible. It really is just not. It's the only thing I would think, Ben, is that they thought these players would just say, well, we're going anyway. You know what? We'll tell you it's a holdout. You can find me all you want. I'll be back August 1st when the Olympics are over. Yeah. There's a lot of these holdouts, do return. And maybe they thought there would be an avalanche of players that would just go anyway. So they figured, you know what, we can't beat them, join them situation. How are they going to pick the team, by the way? And who's, going to determine all that stuff? But the first time a player pulls, who was the guy, Ben, you might remember, that blew his knee out playing the sand game for the All-Star game? I think it was a Patriot running back.
I don't know. I can try to find this out.
Yeah, Google it. guy ends his NFL career blowing his knee out in playing sand football for the All-Star game.
Robert Edwards, Scott? Does that name ring a bell?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. There you go. Yep. Patriot running back. So I'm waiting for the first guy. I'm pretty sure Patriot running back. First guy, that blows. Yeah, right. So blows a hamstring out or does something, crazy because, like you said, it might not be tackle, but they are running up and down the field and doing cutting and left and right. And so it's a dangerous proposition. But that's why I said the only thing that the owners just figured they're going to go anyway. So we might as well just, reward them and join them.
Right. And I think, Scott, you mentioned the selection of now the U.S. Olympic flag football team. That's not done by the NFL. It's not like Roger Goodell's like, hey, I want Patrick Mahomes as our quarterback, Jahmyr Gibbs as our running back. Make sure Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are both out there. It's done by the U.S. Olympic Committee. These would be U.S. flag football representatives, and that's kind of the reality of the situation as well. Just because the NFL owners have voted to allow their players to play potentially in flag football in the 2028 Summer Games, there is currently a United States national team in flag football. I wonder what say they will have in this conversation. We'll talk about how all of this could look about 3 summers from now, about 3 years and 2 months from this very moment, in just a little bit on the other side of the break here on FFC. Is there qualification rounds that we would need to see Lamar Jackson play in before we deem him Team USA's quarterback? We'll discuss and maybe have some fun up next here on FFC.
Luck is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket.
It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Imagine combining the exciting investment opportunity of cryptocurrencies with the power of artificial intelligence to maximize your IRA, 401k, or other investment funds. Listen, if you're looking for ways to accelerate your retirement growth, Block Trust IRA has market-leading strategies and solutions for all levels of investors, from $1,000 to millions. And they partner with Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto trading fund in the world to maximize your returns. Plus, their team of IRA specialists is here to help you roll over your IRA or qualified retirement account to the new world of cryptocurrency investments. So make this free call right now to set up your account and learn more.
800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. That's 800-434-5313.
Sports Grid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on Sports Grid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. Sports Grid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Morency on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find Sports Grid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
It's stark but true.
You can either listen to Sports Grid for strategies, odds, and more, or you can pay your bills by digging in your couch cushions for change.
Just be sure to wear gloves.
Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Scott Wetzel and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. So will we actually see NFL stars compete for a gold medal in the 2028 Summer Olympics in flag football in 2028? Justin Jefferson, who of course plays in Minnesota, was there at the owner meetings yesterday, Scott, saying chasing an Olympic gold medal is a dream. So he is very excited at the prospect of playing in a few summers from now in 2028. I do just want to caution everybody. These NFL guys, if you've played any level of organized football, grow up playing 7-on-7 during the spring and summer, right? Not as much contact, two-hand touch, whatever it might be, where you don't need an offensive lineman, you're not running the football, all of that. Is it similar to flag football? Not necessarily in how the game is structured and played on the international level. It's only 5 players on the field at one time. Basically, quarterback, running back, 3 wide receivers, if you want to call it that. So Team USA might only be 5 of the best and brightest the NFL has to throw out there. And Scott, as we alluded to, there is currently a United States national team that represents this country in its flag football interest. And if you remember when this idea started to percolate that NFL players could play in the Olympics in flag football, there was a lot of conversation between those current Team USA flag football members and NFL stars saying, this is our game, that's yours. We're not going down without a fight. And frankly, you guys don't really know what playing flag football in the way that this game is constructed actually goes down. Leave it to the pros that are the best at doing this. So just because the NFL owners have allowed their players the potential to participate, I'm not so sure we just see our 5 best out there for Team USA.
Yeah, listen, if I could referee these yahoos down here in Topeka High left, right? If those guys think that they're going to beat NFL players out, are you kidding me? You said there's a limited number of players. If you put a Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, pick another scrambler. You want to go even Caleb Williams. Forget about the Josh Allens of the world, right? If you put those guys on the field and say, okay, lead the team down the field, you know what he's going to do? He's going to drop back the pass. The wide receivers are going to go out, and it's going to be him against 2 defensive linemen. There's nobody in the world that's going to be able to catch those guys. I mean, so to think that these yahoos think they're going to beat out NFL players, forget about it. Right. It's not happening. Sorry, guys. You took it to here. It's like think of it as a relay, all right? You brought flag football into prominence. Now we'll take the torch and take it the next step further. And I tell you, I will say this, and I do think those quarterbacks, and throw in a couple of other scrambling quarterbacks, would have a major, major edge on how the game is played. But let's just say they want to play it straight up, right? Wouldn't you love, Ben, to see the competition of, okay, I got Patrick Mahomes, I got Josh Allen, I got Joey Burrow, you throw another quarterback or 2 in there, best quarterback wins. We all say they're all great, but ask a GM, pick one. It's like, I like my guy. Now they would have to actually pick who's going to be the starter. That actually would be kind of fun to see.
It really would. And Scott, to your point, I actually think a quarterback like a Lamar Jackson, like a Jaden Daniels, at least in the flag football that I have seen, would be better fit than even your prototypical pocket passer like a Patrick Mahomes. Not that he is not a great athlete. Josh Allen, a great runner of the football as well, but maybe with a little bit more physicality than
Kyler
others.
Murray.
It might,
so I threw Kyler Murray in there too. Right?
For sure. It might be a tightly contested spot to be the quarterback for the United States Olympic team in flag football. It also should be noted, Scott, and one of the reasons I think it will be fascinating to see how the actual process plays out in reality, even for basketball, when we send the NBA's best over there, sometimes LeBron and Steph aren't involved in the qualification process, but you do need to qualify for that spot. Now, it is in the United States, so that is a little bit of a different story, I believe, by Olympic standards, but it is really interesting to see how that goes. And as I have learned, you cannot have 2 players from the same team. So if you have Joe Burrow as your quarterback, let's just say, Jamar Chase can also not represent the United States. He could go somewhere else if he has family lineage at another country or with another country, but not necessarily both play for Team USA. At least I believe that is what I saw in reading these reports. So, Scott, there's 3 summers to figure it all out ahead of the 2028 games. Fascinated to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I wonder if that would happen then. You get these quarterbacks, let's say Joe Burrow's going to be the starter. Patrick Mahomes, part Italian, so he's going to go play for Italy. That would be kind of weird, right? But I bet it happens.
You never know. It would be kind of, that'd be also for the Italian, imagine the Finnish, the contractor that also plays quarterback having to throw a pass against Jalen Ramsey or something like that. He's Scott Wetzel. I'm Ben Stevens. Football Full Circle returns tomorrow, noon Eastern time.
Now you've done it.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.